Thanks very much, and thanks to the petitioner and to the Commission. I think that this petition forms part of a pattern, an unfortunate pattern in Ireland, whereby you have major projects pursued by major corporations, often oil and gas corporations, which pose serious health, safety and environmental risks, and that they're developed in areas that are quite uninhabited, quite isolated, but that the wishes of those inhabitants, who should have the same rights as everyone else, are entirely ignored, and that these corporations feel they're able to simply ignore them, and that the governments all too often, unfortunately, go along with that same line. It seems from what the Commission is saying that that, to some extent, was enshrined in legislation in the sense of the need for strategic environmental assessment being a limit being hit at a population of 10,000 people, which seems to me a bit incredible in the sense of, well, are we saying that people who don't live in highly populated areas have less rights than those who do? Obviously, the most infamous example of this is the development of Rossport in the west of Ireland, but there are other cases, as we have heard here before, the case of Aughanish, again beside the Shannon estuary, and where it's just people's concerns are ignored, but also it seems that there are major problems in terms of the process and the application of the relevant directives. It seems from what the Commission is saying, if the Commission is saying that this wouldn't happen now, given the change in the legislation in Ireland, in terms of that there would be a proper strategic environmental assessment, that's an argument, surely, that there has been a certain injustice done here where that hasn't taken place. The government has taken some measures now to correct the legislation, but that there's no reason that this community should suffer because the beginnings of the process of the project were started in advance of the legislation being changed, and that they should be entitled to a strategic environmental assessment. And also, from what the petitioner is saying, it's clear that half of a marine risk assessment or a quarter of a marine risk assessment is insufficient. It's clear that an LNG terminal has major ramifications, not only onshore but also offshore, and that deserves to be assessed properly. I think I would ask, obviously for people's opinions, but it would be good if we could keep the petition open, obviously, but also if we could incorporate it into the visit to Ireland, I think planned for next September. I think it could make, it would be good, obviously, for members to see the situation there, but also would assist with those who are involved in campaigning on the issue in Ireland. Thanks a
lot. Thank you very much. Would you like to add something, Mr.? Oh, yes, Mr. BOŞTINARU.
You see, this morning we've been discussing about the amendments to the environment impact assessment. And now, at least in the 3 cases, we can only prove how important it is to properly amend the environmental impact assessment so to prevent problems as the one we are discussing now. And now, looking to the content of the petition, we do have a precedent. It's Milford Haven. If it was good in the Welsh case, why it's not that good in the Irish one? This clearly shows that the way in which the strategic environment impact assessment is meant pose problems, raise question marks. In one place is good, in other not, and then why do not make it to happen and to be implemented in each similar case, because this should not be negotiable. Number 2, definitely the petition should remain open. And thirdly, I will ask the Commission to be even more vigilant, because looking into the content of the petition, we can see Cayman Island-based investors, promoters. When I have nothing against with the investors coming out from Cayman Island, but I do have something, because how to make sure that their liability will be a real one, how to make sure that once a catastrophe may produce, somebody will cover the financial cost to address and to redress the damages. usually, as my culture is not that sophisticated in terms of fiscal heavens, usually they disappeared. After 1-2 years, they just vanished. And you may find a mailbox somewhere which will never answer to any letters be signed by the President of the European Commission or by the President of the European Parliament. This is the habit. So what? The liability, the financial guarantees should be considered, because if a catastrophe will happen and the damages will be at a large scale, somebody should pay, because there is a basic principle, polluter pays. And with in my report on the Cohesion Fund regulation, I did enhance the possibility the principal polluter pays should be properly used, and not to give the possibility, the EU money, to cover the cost for similar cases. So the Commission should be consistent with the principal polluter pays, and to make sure that financial guarantees and the liability should be solved. Because usually in that particular case, I'm not that confident. Definitely not. And please remember, this is not the Mexican Gulf case and United States versus British Petroleum. You know very well how much money they were obliged to pay as compensations. Who will gonna pay in that case if something will happen? And here it's also an obligation not only on the member state to make sure that the European Commission, as the one to guarantee the proper implementation of the treaties, should make sure that those principles should be permanently and constantly properly implemented. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Bostinaru. I think that was a very wise completion of the discussion. I have a suggestion to make to both of you, because you are the only from the petition still here, committee still here. I think that some important petitions, such as the ones we've been dealing with this morning, could be sent to the ENVI committee, because they could produce or find out gaps that they might legislatively fill. So, do you agree?
Ja, ich stimme überein unter der Bedingung, dass man natürlich darauf achtet.
I agree. On condition that we see to it that we get a reply in a timely fashion. I'm very interested in the committee's position, but we don't need the answer in 6 months' time. That's what I would suggest that you do as chairman.
I thank you all, and then